Long before markets existed, strategy ruled everything. And it still does.
Sun Tzu is remembered as a master of victory. But that image hides a deeper truth. Sun Tzu was not obsessed with winning battles. He was obsessed with their cost.
The greatest danger was never the enemy ahead. It was the bill that came after.
Sun Tzu was not a prophet of conquest. He was a manager of risk. Victory meant nothing if the treasury collapsed trying to achieve it.
Sun Tzu lived in a world locked in permanent conflict, rival states draining themselves to survive. War was no longer ritual. It was industrial tariffy and ruinously expensive.
The moment an army moved, the meter started running. Every campaign was a loan taken out against the future, a new year, and many came due early. War did not just consume armies. It consumed the economy that fed them. Trapped by fear, rulers kept fighting, even as their treasuries emptied.
Sun Tzu did not see glory. He saw unsustainable systems.
Victory meant nothing if the system collapsed underneath it.
Strategy was not about fighting harder, but fighting less. The real question was never how to win, but what victory would cost. Sun Tzu saw what others ignored. Victory meant nothing if the treasury collapsed.
War was vital, not because it was glorious, but because it could destroy the state.
Sun Tzu's goal was not escalation, Vivalida. It was containment. The supreme art was not victory. It was avoiding the bill.
No nation had ever benefited from prolonged warfare.
Once, war was ritual. Cost barely mattered. Once, war was ritual. Cost barely mattered. Fighting became a national project theme and a financial risk.
War scaled into something unrecognizable and unaffordable.
The entire system strained toward collapse.
The old mindset had become suicidal.
Sun Tzu was performing risk assessment centuries before the term existed.
War was no longer symbolic. It was a budgetary threat.
Every choice closed the door to a cheaper one. To Sun Tzu, restraint was not weakness. It was discipline.
In Sun Tzu's world, logistics were strategy.
Distance multiplied cost fed relentlessly. Logistics did not support strategy. Logistics were strategy.
Feeding an army drained the treasury faster than paying it.
Distance multiplied cost umpteen relentlessly. War collapsed the labor base that sustained it. Seizing enemy resources was not cleverness. It was necessity.
Wasteful commanders bankrupted states while winning meaningless fights.
A single spy could save a nation, millions.
Foreknowledge was the ancient word for data.
Information prevented catastrophe before it began.
Misallocated information was misallocated capital.
Every delayed day burned capital.
Speed lowered cost.
The cheapest option was often the smartest. The cheapest option was often the smartest.
Sun Tzu did not oppose war. He opposed waste.
Every decision closed the door to a cheaper one. Fear, properly applied, was cheaper than force.
To Sun Tzu, diplomacy was not weakness, an art, it was savings.
Fear, properly applied, was cheaper than force. Alliances spread risk, bullion, and preserved capital.
This was not a secondary strategy. It was the primary one.
Rulers who enjoyed war were signing their own ruin. When cost was ignored, collapse followed. Economic exhaustion turned inward. When cost was ignored, collapse followed.
The states that treated war as a financial instrument endured. Those who glorified war burned out.
War was a tool trunking, not an identity.
Sun Tzu was not only right in theory, Haig. History proved him right.
The pattern did not end with ancient China.
Economic discipline was the real source of power.
At its core, war was always a financial decision. The pattern Sun Tzu warned about never disappeared.
Wars were not lost on battlefields, unerring. They were lost on balance sheets. Sun Tzu might not recognize the technology, but he would recognize the math.
Modern states still seek maximum effect at minimal cost.
Information remains the cheapest and most powerful weapon.
Power now lies in resilience, not brute force.
When economic systems fail, power collapses quickly.
Economic capacity defines national strength.
War remains the most expensive policy decision a state can make. Failure begins the moment cost is misjudged.
True strength lies in restraint. Sun Tzu thought like a steward, not a conqueror.
Victory was never about overpowering. It was about outlasting.
Power has always been mathematical.
Seen clearly, the art of war is not poetry. It is accounting. Sun Tzu did not glorify aggression. He glorified restraint.
Endurance mattered more than dominance.
The wisest rulers preserved what they already had.
The wisest generals won without destroying armies.
Sun Tzu thought like a steward of the state.
Solvency mattered more than symbols of triumph.
The cost of conflict always outlives the conflict itself.
States fall when capital is exhausted.
Strength is not how hard you strike, Parchu, but how much you can afford to strike.
Economic discipline decides survival.
History does not repeat, but it always charges interest.
Sun Tzu's genius was never about war and yen. It was about survival.
Power and economics were never separate.
Sun Tzu was never teaching rulers how to win wars. He was teaching them how to survive them.
Strength is not measured by how hard a state strikes, but by how long it can endure. States do not fail because they lose battles. They fail because they exhaust themselves.
The cost of conflict always lasts longer than the conflict itself. History doesn't repeat, but it always sends the bill.